Let's talk about marketing. So what do you see working? Where do you think that the whole industry is going?
Man, that's a great question. So I'm going to give a couple vague answers starting out, and then I'll get a little bit more granular from there. For us and for me as an individual, I would say I specialize in SEO and content marketing. That's really, I would say, one of the largest pillars of Junto's business is the content marketing / SEO side of things. So my answers will probably be a little biased there. But as far as kind of the overarching content marketing and SEO trend goes, the really vague answer I'll start out with that I think most SEOs would agree with is that long form content creation is really the way to continue to do content moving forward, and probably will be for the very long term. Brian Dean had done a study back in, I think it was September 2016, where he highlighted that the average first page result on Google is about 1,900 words, give or take. I'm sure that answer has probably varied a little bit just in the past, 2.5, 3 years. But this is compared to, let's say, a couple of years ago when the average post was probably closer to 500, maybe 1,000 words that was ranking on Google. So search engines are really starting to favor longer form content, obviously content that has a strong link profile behind it or domain. But first pillar I'll start out with is that long form content creation is the content creation of the future. The second element, which is something we really started seeing around, I guess it would have been August 2018, is Google rolled out what they called their Medic update. And long and short of it, Google we started seeing all this crazy fluctuation for health and fitness centric businesses. Really just those that were offering any sort of medical advice, with the term medical being used very, very vaguely. A lot of these sites started getting slapped by Google, saw 50, 75% of their traffic disappear overnight. And the ultimate consensus that we came to is that this whole reason for this decline is that Google is starting to focus much more on how trustworthy are the authors of these articles that are coming out. It's basically outlined in their quality guidelines report that came out, which is basically acronymed as EAT, or Expertise, Authority, and Trust. So started out with that August 2018. Back in June, I think it was June 3rd that this update started rolling out. Google rolled out a core update that we very firmly believe was based on a very similar feature, just rolled out for a much larger range of businesses. So our thought is focusing on building what I would call like authorship. I guess it was back in, I think it was 2013, 2014 when Google first rolled that out. But focusing on building a name for yourself and your team members who are contributing content to the community. Ultimately, getting these authors to have much more respect in the industry, to be well-known names, and ultimately just putting a face behind the content you are putting out is a huge trend that we're ultimately starting to roll out for all clients that we're working with, and a really big trend I'd recommend other businesses working with. We do very firmly believe that this whole EAT element is going to really start to penalize sites that don't focus on it in the coming months, even more so than it has over the past, let's say, year. Other elements, the really obvious one, I definitely still think that links matter to a massive degree. Another study, I think it may have actually been in that same Brian Dean article that came out 2016, showed that the total number of domain backlinks pointing back to your article is the search factor that's most correlated with high rankings in search. Correlation definitely doesn't mean causation, but there's a really strong indicator that getting links ultimately is in line with you ranking at the top of Google for relevant queries. So the more you can focus on building relationships in your industry, or similarly doing outreach for articles that you are writing and trying to get a handful of links to them so that you can lock in that first, second, third position for your article, is ultimately going to help you to see long-term success. Stepping back from, I would say, content marketing though, or let's say like the blog side of content marketing, I'm actually going to absolutely steal a quote from, I totally just blanked on his name. I just saw him talk a couple months ago. Bruce Clay. Sorry, if we can just wind that back for a second in the interview, I guess. But so the other element that I'll incorporate in there, stepping away from like the blog-centric side of, let's say, insights for where marketing is going, stealing one tip from Bruce Clay. I got to hear him speak a couple times over the past year, and he is a very, very intelligent SEO. He brought up a really great point that ultimately Google owns YouTube. Google is starting to show more and more YouTube results in their search engine results pages. And he basically theorized that by, I think he said 2020, maybe 2025, that 5 out of 10 results for the average Google search query will be taken up by YouTube videos. Regardless of what the timeline is, I do think he's spot on with that general direction that YouTube is going to start taking much more real estate in search results. As a result, our team is in the really early stages of experimenting with video marketing for our own brand. But businesses that aren't getting started with video creation, I would really highly recommend that. One really simple thing you can do to start out, there's this great tool out there that we use in-house for our processes and then also for YouTube video creation called Loom, Loom. And basically allows you to create these short walkthrough videos. You can attach a screenshot of your face or actually have a live recording in the corner of your face. So what we'll do for processes, YouTube creation, we'll ultimately create these short videos, upload them so that people on our team, so that our clients can actually view these and get these walkthrough videos of how to do things. Could be a really great thing to incorporate in your content to keep people on the site, to improve dwell time and ultimately improve search rankings. And over time, as YouTube hopefully takes up more real estate, it'll be a great way to even gain more search power. Other trends that we're seeing, I guess, stepping back from the content side of things, we're definitely seeing that CPCs for Facebook ads are really starting to skyrocket. Google AdWords has been doing that for a couple years, and ultimately both of those platforms are giving advertisers a little bit less control as time goes on. So it's definitely been very interesting to see what's happening there. Certainly wouldn't consider myself a PPC expert, so I don't want to get too granular in there. But I think more than anything, I'm just really curious to see, are any of these secondary advertising platforms going to really start to emerge, whether it's Bing ads, Quora ads, Twitter ads, anything like that, as these platforms give less control to the advertiser and start charging more per click. But regardless, it'll be really interesting to see what does happen there. And the more you can leverage, the best talent in the world as opposed to the best talent within, let's say, a 20-minute drive of your office. And B, the more you can leverage talent when you need it, as opposed to having these full-time salaries that you are locked into for, bare minimum a couple of months, let's say, if it doesn't work out with someone.